Good evening, and thank you very much for the invitation to be part of this evening. I'm delighted to be here, and I'm particularly delighted to be, for the first time in my life, in this beautiful cathedral, in spite of the fact that I grew up just over a mile from here. So Four Corners continues to do that. I will never forget, actually, that event in Ballygomartin Presbyterian Church, the first Four Corners Festival event 10 years ago. And it was very special for me for two reasons. The first reason was I had just come back from my first book tour in the USA, which for me had been such an exciting experience. And I'd been doing book readings in all these amazing places that I never imagined I would find myself standing up and talking about being a paperboy up the Shankill in the 1970s. But the event that I remember most of all the book readings that I've done anywhere was that evening back in Ballygomartin Presbyterian Church, for two reasons. The first was that is where I grew up. That's where so many of the stories in that book, Paperboy, are set. And so it was really, really special to me to come home, I had a sense of coming home that evening. But the second reason why it was special to me was that we were sitting in Ballygomartin Presbyterian Church, and there were people from the four corners of this city in the church that I had grew up in. And that would have been unthinkable when I was growing up there as a child. And I was particularly touched and delighted that evening of the number of people who came to that event from the Falls Road, crossing the peace line and sharing together in a Presbyterian church at the top of the Shankill Road. And for me, that was the very beginnings of what Four Corners was all about, and it was special to me. Shortly after that event, one of the members of Ballygomartin Presbyterian Church contacted me and said, when you did the book reading that night, you read about your parents running the Westy Disco in the church, and I have something special I want to give you. So the story is that my parents were volunteers in the youth club, and they ran a disco every Saturday night. And they crammed 400 kids into a little Nissen hut every Saturday night and kept kids from the Shankill Road off the streets and safe throughout the Troubles. And no such thing as health and safety in those days, I can tell you. We were crammed into this little hut. But my father was the DJ. He was known as the oldest DJ in town, even then. And he played the records every Saturday night. And the last record that was played every Saturday night at the Westy Disco, to let all us teenagers know that the disco was over, was The Last Waltz by Engelbert Humperdinck. Now, even in the 1970s, that was kind of old-fashioned. So it soon cleared the floor of the disco. But we also knew when the first few bars of The Last Waltz came on that it was time to take your chance and ask that girl out that you fancied and you'd been wanted to get close to all evening. And so once The Last Waltz was played, we paired up, we had our slow dance, and I maybe asked a girl to come with me to the chippy for a fish supper and a pickled egg. And so it's a memory of first love for me every time I hear The Last Waltz. But it's also more important than that to me as well, because the reason my father chose it as the last dance every Saturday night was because it was my parents' song. And every time he played it, he was telling my mother that he loved her. So that song, that single by Engelbert Humperdinck, was very special to me for those two reasons, young love and my parents' love. And so after the Four Corners event, this friend from the church said he was in the attic and he found The Last Waltz by Engelbert Humperdinck. And it still has on it Ballygomartin Youth Club, stuck on the 45 on masking tape that my father had borrowed from Mackie's Foundry. And here it is. So that's the object that I want to share with you this evening. It represents for me young love, the love of my parents, and the love that I believe is at the heart of this one community of Belfast, that for me is represented in the Four Corners Festival. So I would like to congratulate you on 10 years of Four Corners. Thank you for consistently revealing and nurturing the love that, in spite of all that the rest of the world may see or think of us, we know is at the heart of this one community of Belfast. Thank you.